Hey Jets fans, welcome back to Game Over Winnipeg. My name is Lyss, one of your regular hosts, and I'm here to burn the midnight oil with all of you for a super fun one today, covering 5 unanswered goals, I guess it ended up being, to win the hockey game against what a lot of people consider to be one of the best in the West in the Los Angeles Kings. So I'm super excited that everyone's here to join me tonight. As you can probably tell, if you're watching live, you can see I'm solo. You don't see these often. I don't really like doing these, but sometimes, I don't feel great texting someone and being like, hey, would you love to stay up till 12:30 covering a West Coast game with me? So I'm doing it by myself tonight, and thank goodness the Winnipeg Jets gave me something to talk about. So we're going to talk some hockey for a little bit. I can see we already have some people here in the chat. Thanks so much, everyone, for being here. Really excited to have this show. It's me, my water bottle to keep my voice nice and refreshed against the world. So let's get into it and talk about, not the game, let's talk about before the game a little bit. So obviously, lots of off-ice things to talk about. Today we found out Kyle Connor came home, did some more testing, and we confirmed the 6 to 8 week timeline. So now it's, as serious / as sure as it ever is going to be that we are going to be missing Kyle Connor for an extended period of time due to the knee-on-knee collision with Ryan Strome 2 games ago in Anaheim. So obviously a massive loss for the Winnipeg Jets. I had this penciled in as one of my sort of could talk about points if I needed to. If the game was a little bit of a dud, then I could, I could talk about that, but the game was not a dud. But this game had some things particularly kind of off the ice beforehand to talk about. The revenge game. There's always the revenge game when it comes to players after recent trades or signings away from the teams. Pierre-Luc Dubois, first game playing in front of a home crowd against his former team, the Winnipeg Jets. Gabe Vilardi and Alex Iafallo first game back in the building. So obviously for Gabe Vilardi going into this game, probably some emotions going on. Obviously last time he played against the LA Kings, it was supposed to be a nice, big, fun reunion. And the Blake Lizotte knee injury ended up being, really devastating and put him out for several weeks. In fact, it's almost comparable to the Connor injury as far as how we're looking right now with the type of play and the timeline for the injury and all that. So, I can't decide / predict how he might have been feeling, but we got some Gabe Vilardi boos early on in the game, which I thought was really interesting. That was a player that was forcefully traded away from your team, against his will. I don't think Gabe Vilardi was asking for any trades. I know a lot of players, when they get traded, we hear that there was, desire for them to leave. And I heard, crickets about Gabe Vilardi not liking his time in LA or anything like that. So the boos were interesting, especially since considering last time, you remember what happened when he played against you guys last time, what y'all did to him. But I have to try and be consistent, and I am a boo lover. I think it's hilarious when people boo. I love when people boo. I think it's so funny. So I will never ever hate on the boos, but I just thought it was an interesting choice. You would have thought they maybe go with someone like Alex Iafallo, who played an even longer period with the team and all these. I don't know. Whatever. Either way, an interesting choice for players that were traded and didn't, sign or say anything poorly, about the team after their departure. So interesting choice. We're like, oh, boos early on. Well, hopefully Gabe Vilardi has a good game. We're going to get into whether or not Gabe Vilardi had a good game, but I can see everyone in the chat here is talking about, the excitement that was that top line. So we're definitely going to get into it. But to start the game, Stanley's out again. Nate Schmidt is in. We're running 12-6 again, so a little bit more of a conventional lineup. Lines are kind of structured as we were expecting them to be. So it's time to start the game. So here's what happened. Here's what happened. Okay, so early on to start the game, the first thing that I noticed was the line matching. So the team was going 1-1, 2-2, 3-3. So that meant that the Adam Lowry line was matched up against the Pierre-Luc Dubois line because, as we recall, Pierre-Luc Dubois is a $8.5 million third line center. And then that meant Scheifele had to deal with the Anze Kopitar line. And that's always the thing that, is a little bit difficult when it comes to line matching against the LA Kings because there are advantages and disadvantages to matching up against the top line, and in certain cases they're really offensively powerful and you have to try and contain them. But in this case, the Anze Kopitar line is obviously very gifted offensively, but they're extremely difficult to play against defensively as well. Obviously one of the best defensive lines in the NHL. So it was definitely, a choice by Todd McClellan that I don't necessarily disagree with. But I was pleased to see how that line ended up managing their matchup against Anze Kopitar for a good chunk of that game. So early on in that first period, kind of the first thing of note to happen was the Nate Schmidt penalty, right? And immediately we're looking at it and you're like, okay, a soft little cross check where a guy falls over. 2-minute penalty, cross-checking penalty to Nate Schmidt. And if we call all of those cross-checks, we're going to be playing 3-on-3 hockey for a good chunk of this game, right? So, you know what? I give the refs the benefit of the doubt in this case, and I'm like, you know what? It happens. You make a call, you bring people in, and you say that's not going to happen in this game. You don't allow that. It's like, okay, you know what? Whatever. I'll take that. It's fine. But then it's almost poetic, right? The ensuing power play. Dylan Sandberg is standing in front of the net, and he gets a small cross check, and he falls, and Anze Kopitar scores. No call. The cross check on Dylan Sandberg, in my objective lens, just watching it, if you throw pennies over the numbers, we don't know who it is, it's not a penalty. And I stand by it. It's not a penalty. But if you're going to call that Nate Schmidt penalty seconds before to put this LA team on the man advantage, I just think it's an interesting choice. I really do. I'm curious to hear what everyone's thoughts are in the chat here. And Lucas is saying he loved seeing how fired up Bowness was. Agreed. That was the big piece of that, right? Where immediately after the goal is scored, Adam Lowry is pissed. And Adam Lowry, I don't see him getting pissed very often. Like, sometimes you get mad, whatever, and you're the captain, so you go talk to the ref when there's a call you don't like, but he was upset. He was visibly angry. And he goes to the bench, and Rick Bowness is equally mad. Like, he's very upset. Like, so, and I get it. Like, I don't know. Like, this is a team, we all know how good the LA Kings are, and you want to try and play good hockey right off the jump to make sure you're able to manage them and all these things, right? And you're essentially, like, they kind of got shafted by that back-to-back situation of those calls, with the first one being a penalty and the second one not. Like, I understand the frustration on that. I really do. I see we have 37 people watching live in the chat right now. That's fabulous. Thank you so much, everyone, for being here. I don't know if we have a couple of Kings fans or anything in here with, so many people coming to join, which is really fantastic. So if you guys have thoughts, I'm definitely curious to hear from everybody. I'll do my best to sort of check. Brady is saying that both the Schmidt penalties were penalties, and if that's the way we want to look at it, like, I'm not upset about that. I just find that they were such similar plays, the one that took Dylan Sandberg out from being able to manage the net front and the one that put Schmidt in the box. And if we're going to call one, I think we should call both. So early on, I was in a little bit of a bad mood in this game. I was not pleased. So I think that was obviously a 1-0 score that early on, a lot of shots kind of in favor of LA. The Jets weren't playing super awesome hockey right off the jump, right? And I think that's part of the fabric that makes the LA Kings such a good hockey team, is how good they were at managing the Winnipeg Jets coming into the zone, right? So LA plays a 1-3-1. And for those of you who are a little bit less familiar, when people start going off about the 1-3-1, 1-2-2, whatever, basically the Jets are coming up the ice with the puck. There's one high forechecker, 3 guys kind of anchored in the middle a little bit, and then 1 deep defender. So it tends to be a winger up top, a defender up at the back, whatever, and then 3 guys in the middle. And we know that that's a really hard defensive structure to enter the zone against. But what I found tonight in particular was that the Winnipeg Jets, in a 1-3-1, you don't have a lot of space to come up the middle, for sure, because you're pretty stretched in the middle there with an individual guy up top and then the guy right in the middle, right, as opposed to a 1-2-2 where the guys are a little bit more on the sides. You still have guys on the sides to deal with here, but it's kind of the lesser of two evils. But what's nice about the 1-3-1 is that the middle defender, which oftentimes is the center, I couldn't really tell you who it was tonight depending on the line, I'm sure it changed, but they act as a little bit of a rover, right? So for example, when the top line, Mark Scheifele in particular, I noticed was trying to carry the puck in down one of the flanks, you have the initial guy who's on the wall with him, but then the middle guy comes over and all of a sudden you have two guys pressuring immediately and they box that guy right out to the side. And I thought, especially in that first period, the LA Kings did a phenomenal job, an airtight job, keeping the Winnipeg Jets out of the middle of the ice in the offensive zone. And I don't know if that's just because they have so many players who are good at that type of thing, or if it's because of the 1-3-1 sort of system. I'm not always the greatest when it comes to systems, so I can't tell you why exactly that is, but it just really caused the Winnipeg Jets to look a little bit panicky to me with their zone entries and their offensive kind of transition, especially over LA's blue line, and I was worried early. And then what happened was goal number 2. Goal number 2 is honestly such a nothing burger to me. For those of you who don't remember exactly what I'm talking about, it was the only goal that LA scored after that power play goal. It was the behind the goal line, the Danny Heatley slap, whatever. It was the Alex Laferriere shot from below the goal line that just bonked off of Connor Hellebuck's ear. And like, honestly, genuinely, I have nothing to say about that. And it's not like me trying to be like all pissy or whatever. No, I have nothing to say about that. Those happen. Like, it kind of is what it is. But I do want to talk a little bit about Connor Hellebuck going into the second period. So you finished the first 20 minutes, the opening frame of this game. You're down 2-0. We know the annoyance of the first goal. We know the annoyance of the second goal. Different types of annoyances, but annoyances nonetheless. It doesn't matter. It's a 2-0 hockey game, and you haven't created any shots of quality, in my opinion. Like, there were some okay looks and all these kinds of things, but this is when the switch flips for me. So they start the second period on the power play. And we know Nick and Brady were on Game Over last night covering another late one, after the loss against the Sharks last night. And the power play was a huge point of contention for the Jets. It always is, but it was last night too, right? Because against a San Jose Sharks team that has, I think we just juiced their penalty killing stats so much. And I, like, the power play, I don't have a lot more to say that hasn't already been said. I think they don't need, I want them to anchor it less through Josh Morrissey and more through someone who's a little bit deeper down. Like, you know, when they used to run it through Blake Wheeler, and obviously Blake Wheeler is a really good passer and all these different kinds of things, but they were also anchoring it through a player who was closer to the net, closer to the goal line, and had a better kind of vision as opposed to way up high on the blue line. But, you know, so, and that's not to fault Josh Morrissey. I just think they need to do something. But the thing is, when Nikolaj Ehlers is kind of anchoring a little bit of this power play now that he's on that first unit because there isn't much more to do and all these sorts of things, he climbs up to the blue line, and all of a sudden you have 2-point players. Josh Morrissey's on the left and Nikolaj Ehlers is on the right. You can't have two guys straddling the blue line on a power play. You have to collapse a little bit further. We saw what LA did at the end of the game when it was 6-on-5. Like, they were pushing the penalty-killing unit in to try and create more space for themselves. And so that's where my frustration lies on the power play, and I'm not going to dive into it too much. The only reason I'm kind of going on it right now is because this is literally the last bad thing I pretty much have to say about the Winnipeg Jets. And is just that right now, I think, like, I'm of the mind that they need to run it through Perfetti and all these things. And the big thing for me on the power play right now is that if you look at the alternatives and you look at the options, there's no, oh, what if sort of thing. Because I understand sometimes when you want to make changes, you're worried to break up a good thing, or you're worried to give up. You know, say the power play was only scoring, or if a line was rocking like a slightly over half expected goals share or Corsi share or whatever, and you're like, oh, like, you know, we don't want to screw that up and then have several lines, you know, below 500, whatever. This power play is actively doing nothing. Like, you are not giving anything up by literally putting your entire fourth line and third pairing out there. Because as long as the other team isn't scoring goals against you, you're a net neutral on this. Like, switching the power play unit to be fourth liners is the exact same result because they're scoring 0 goals. Like, that's straight up it. So to me, they just need to start making some legitimate changes, and if it's personnel changes, like that's what it has to be. I'd rather it be structural changes than personnel changes, but something's got to give. Now, Frankie Corrado talked a little bit about Connor Hellebuck in the second intermission, which I thought was really interesting because to me that was not the storyline of the second period. But then I realized that how that period started, the Jets picked it up. They picked it up real good. But Connor Hellebuck was very stable and steady to start that second period when LA was still getting the odd chances here and there. But Connor Hellebuck was stable. He was steady. He bailed them out a couple of times, and it allowed for them to stay in that 2-goal deficit, which is not like an unrecoverable hole to dig yourself out of, as we know. And what started digging themselves out of that hole was the very first Nikolaj Ehlers goal. So what I like about the Nikolaj Ehlers goal is, first, he's shooting. Like, I love when they shoot. We need more shots, especially on rush chances. Like, just shoot the puck. You don't have to try and do the whole scoop around and look for a better guy in front, especially when LA is as good as defending their slot in their middle of the ice as they are. He shot. Shout out to him for shooting. But Gabe Vilardi is the one who carries the puck up the middle of the ice on this first goal, right? And the thing with this one is that Scheifele is on Gabe Vilardi's left, so he's on the right side, where we're watching. He's on kind of the right wing, and the right defenseman for LA kind of neutralizes him, right? Like, we have that, and then the left defenseman has to choose a little bit between Vilardi and Ehlers coming in on the left side of the ice, and you can't choose the guy, or you can't not choose the guy breaking up the middle of the ice. Like, if he had tried to pull over and cover a pass by himself to Nikolaj Ehlers in this case, Gabe Vilardi would have had all the time in the world to just walk right into the middle and shoot the lights out of Cam Talbot, which is, you can't do that. So I don't blame the defender in this case, but the little crisscross to allow Nikolaj Ehlers to shoot from the middle of the ice and also pull the defender with Gabe Vilardi was just a perfect example of how to manage a zone entry when you have the opponent at a little bit of a disadvantage with their positioning. So I was really pleased with that. Obviously, it was a beautiful shot from Nikolaj Ehlers, and I think that really kind of set the tone. Obviously, the boos to Gabe Vilardi and those kinds of things. Like, I was pleased that he made such a nice play and that we had such a nice finish from Nikolaj Ehlers on that. Not long after, here we get goal number 2, and I have the Nikolaj Ehlers jersey on the wall. For those of you who are watching live, you can see that. And also, just a little sidebar, another shout out, guys. Thank you so much for being here. It is 12:30 in Winnipeg right now, but we are all riding this high. We're having so fun. Also, can I just say, no caffeine today. No caffeine today. I was like, you know what? Yesterday, I had coffee, and then I had a Diet Coke later in the day because I was going to stay up to just watch the Jets game. I wasn't even doing the stream. But then I couldn't sleep very well afterwards. So I was like, you know what? No. Like, today we're gonna raw dog this. We'll do it. We're gonna go au naturel, no caffeine for tonight's game. But I am high on life, man. Like, I'm so fired up. But make sure you like the stream if you're live watching, tonight. If you're not, if you're watching back tomorrow morning, or whenever you listen, I don't blame you. But thanks so much for being here regardless. Let's talk about the second Nikolaj Ehlers goal a little bit. So that goal, another rush chance. And I want to say a shout out to Mikey Anderson. Woof, man. Absolute woof. Like, I felt so bad for the dude. I also would look like a pylon if I had Nikolaj Ehlers coming in on me like that, so I don't necessarily blame him. Yeah, that was not the greatest look by the defender coming in. Nikolaj Ehlers, again, reads Cam Talbot like a book. Same sort of shot, same sort of space. And I gotta say, too, though, I can't remember who, but Trevor Moore. I need to shout out Trevor Moore. Brutal back check, dude. Brutal back check on that goal. That was a rough. He coasted that one, and that was part of the reason why they were able to pull their way in, and Nikolaj Ehlers kind of just, ran the show on that one, and all of a sudden, it's like the game is just starting. It's 0-0, and all of the momentum is on the side of the Winnipeg Jets, especially with their superstar, Gabe Vilardi, having 2 points, and LA's superstar, who makes almost 3 times as much as our superstar, only having 1. Woo, 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 woo. The top line is cooking now. The top line is absolutely cooking now. And I just want to say, I want to put myself on the record. I never gave up on Scheifele and Ehlers. I'm still, like, Gabe Vilardi, I really like, don't get me wrong, I just still don't feel like I know him as well as I know Mark Ehlers. I was about to go somewhere with that. I still feel like I don't know him as well as I know Mark Scheifele and Nikolaj Ehlers, nor should I. I've been watching these guys for, over 10 years, frick? Like, I've known these guys for a while, and I've never given up on what the potential I thought that there was within that group. So, I just gotta say, I'm really pleased that they're starting to work together. I do realize that Gabe Vilardi is partially the secret sauce on that one, but I was really happy about the way that line looked kind of together and the way that duo looked, knowing how much fun chemistry and how much chaos we can see from the three of them. And tonight it was positive chaos. So let's go to goal number 3. Now, we're going to do, this is, okay, say that if this was a play right now, if we were watching, you know, like a, I don't know, I'm not an arts kid, I'm not a theater kid, but you know how sometimes, like, the lights dim down? Actually, I could shut the lights off, hold on. I have a ring light on. I'm going to make it ghastly now. The lights are off. Actually, it's not that cool. Anyways. Pierre-Luc Dubois. Pierre-Luc Dubois. This goal is about Pierre-Luc Dubois. That's why I'm doing this little segue here. But this man has been villainized in the city of Winnipeg. And everyone knows that Pierre-Luc Dubois is my favorite hockey player. But even I will say, I do not blame them. I do not blame them that this man showed up, did what he did, left the way that he did, and all these things. And people are like, hey, I don't love that guy. I've been a Pierre-Luc Dubois fan for like 6 years. Like I've always really, really liked this dude. So I can't give up on him just like that. But I don't think Jets fans are in the wrong for not wanting him to succeed to the same degree as they would have wanted him to if he were still wearing a Jets jersey. But you know what? I am a happy camper because my boy got his bag. He got his $65 million contract. And now he's playing like a $3 million player. Congrats to the boy. Congrats, man. But listen, if you're an LA Kings fan watching the show right now, if you're listening back, I am not a Pierre-Luc Dubois hater, nor am I giving up on Pierre-Luc Dubois. I still think that this is a fabulous hockey player with so much potential. I just don't know what it takes to get it out of him. I really don't. And that's what, on this third goal that happens here, okay? The momentum is bad for the LA Kings. They're like, oh shit, like we gotta sort ourselves together, get our act together, all these sorts of things. Pierre-Luc Dubois loses a stick. I'm like, oh god. At the top of a 5-man defensive unit, he's already a little bit chaotic. Now, without a stick, oh my gosh, come on. Like, so he's up there and he's living life. I don't remember. I want to say it's Josh Morrissey. But he's at the top. He's not moving around very well. And he runs into his winger, who's trying to follow the defenseman to block the shot. So what happens? The middle of the ice is wide open. So Josh Morrissey can walk in a little bit. Takes a shot. Probably a better shot than he would have been if he was 6 feet further back where he should have been on the blue line if the player hadn't fallen because he'd run into Pierre-Luc Dubois. And just that split second of opening that Josh Morrissey got. And when your line has just scored 2 goals and you have some of the most offensively gifted players in the NHL in Mark Scheifele, Nikolaj Ehlers, and Gabe Vilardi, they're too good not to pot that puck in. Shout out Gabe Vilardi again on that one. Scheifele's little wrap around the net to open up to get in on Cam Talbot's left side there. Holy cow. Like, I wouldn't have seen that coming. I would have just expected them to start jamming at the puck. But Scheifele wraps around the net. Gabe Vilardi gives him a nice little pass. Tap it in. Bob's your uncle. All of a sudden, the Jets are winning this hockey game. So, it's pretty poetic. You watch the replay of that one. Make sure, just saying, if you're watching the replay of that one, watch for Mark Scheifele. Watch, just see what he's up to. So that brings us to the end of the second period, where the Jets are at, and we're doing pretty well. We're pleased, we're happy. Now we're ready to win this hockey game. So the vibes are good. 3 apples for Gabe Vilardi. The dude's playing a good hockey game in his homecoming and all these different kinds of things. This top line looks really great. The next goal, once again, Pierre-Luc Dubois is caught puck watching in his own zone. And Dylan DeMello, shout out my boy. Real shout out to my boy. I was expecting him to shoot the puck when he did, but Pierre-Luc Dubois puck watching, Gabe Vilardi's got a stick open, and he gives him a nice little snap pass. Like, it's a nice right on the stick. And I gotta say, I don't know about you guys, but this Gabe Vilardi goal might have been my favorite goal of the game. And I'm saying that because I am just weak in the knees for a backhand goal. I don't know what is prettier to me than a backhand highlight reel goal. I just think they're so pleasing to the eye to watch. And just chef's kiss for his 4th point of the night. The Winnipeg Jets are now up by 2. Gabe Vilardi gets his 4th point on the scoreboard, notches a goal there. Absolute chef's kiss to see that when Pierre-Luc Dubois is coasting with his knees standing straight up in his own zone. So big shout out to that. Let the booze sing, baby. Let the booze sing. That's my boy right there. So all in all, I just kind of really wanted to focus in on that top line and some of the goals that they had today, because I think it's really important to acknowledge that you just need to give guys time to, for lack of better words, cook. Like that's what you need to do, is you need to allow them some time. But okay, obviously Mark Scheifele scores 5-2. We got the game. The game is done. Let's talk about a couple more like holistic, big picture things. Can we admit, now that we have another line that's working, Top Line Media, Julian, Jeff, everyone in the chat is saying we love how this line is looking. We're all on board. We're all understanding how good they look right now. Are we okay to abandon the Niederreiter, Lowry, Appleton line? Can we do that now? I understand why they were hesitant to do it for a while. In early November, that line was the only thing that was giving this Jets team hope for actually putting goals in the back of the net. Like, holy smokes, like, it was just like they couldn't get anything to work properly with those top six lines, and it was just, things were goofy. That line was looking great. They were playing 200-foot hockey. It was fabulous. But the last 3 weeks, they've been fine. And it was the thing before where I fully understood, yes, maybe Nino Niederreiter, Adam Lowry could have played with different line mates and been better, but a lot of people weren't willing to risk breaking up what that line had. And I get that. I do. But can we now? Because that second line has never needed anything more than they need Nino Niederreiter right now. Listen, I like Alex Iafallo. He seems like a nice boy, and he's good at hockey. But he is not my second line winger. He just isn't. And I think at this point, I would much rather see a reunion of him, Lowry, and Appleton than another game of him on the second line, even if it means breaking them up. Luke is saying in the chat, get Nino with Perfetti. And I fully agree. I absolutely agree that we need Nino. Oh, that's a tongue twister. We need Nino Niederreiter up on that second line right now in order to get them to succeed. I think, obviously, you let that top line get after it and make the chaos that they need. But we got to get Nino Niederreiter up there, and we got to get Alex Iafallo out of there. I wanted so badly for Alex Iafallo to have himself a game tonight. He didn't. He wasn't bad. He's rarely bad, but he hasn't been giving me enough to justify being on the second line, and no one on the third line is giving me enough as a unit, as a collective, to make me think that this team's success is absolutely hinging on that line being together. I do want to talk a little bit about, like, the second line tonight was kind of, there wasn't a ton there for me, but I will say Cole Perfetti was out defending the 6-on-5. Cole Perfetti got his power play reps. Like, I know a lot of people have been really hard on Bonus for his usage of Cole Perfetti, and I am fully on board with that. Like, I definitely think that there is reason to be critical of Cole Perfetti's usage. I think he hit a game high in ice time last game, or the game where Kyle Connor got hurt, and it was like 18 minutes or something like that, which is fine, but he needs more. And I just don't think that Alex Iafallo and Vlad Nemestikov are giving that to him right now at 5-on-5. And I think the chat seems to agree with me here too, that Nino Niederreiter is the short-term fix on that top line. And I know we can talk trades, we can talk all these things for a while. But as, like, for right now, to make this team look a little better, you bump Nino Niederreiter up. It's the easy switch. But Lucas is alluding to it in the chat. Not alluding to it. He straight up said it. And I was going to get there too. Listen. I also wouldn't hate a look at Gus in the middle six. I'm just saying. The Gus bus has been gassed up, fresh oil change, hitting the road lately. He is out there putting on the mileage, and I would like to see him rewarded for that. And I know, obviously, Axel Jonsson-Fjällby is the first guy that comes out if there are different players that get put in and all these kinds of things. But we know that when injuries aren't a thing, that David Gustafsson literally isn't even a top 12 forward on this team. He's been playing like it lately. And I would like to see a little bit more out of David Gustafsson and even Morgan Barron. Like, I think that there's definitely some potential with how these players have been playing lately, that right now they wouldn't be bad upgrades on Alex Iafallo on that second line. But then the thing is, the upgrade is Nino Niederreiter, and then you throw one of the other ones on the third line. But Lucas is saying, we saw the Scheifele to Gus pass. The last couple of games, we've seen a couple of shifts. I don't know if it was just, benching Perfetti or line changes or what, but I've seen a couple of Scheifele and Gus shifts. They're so fun. They are so, so, so fun. Like, I don't know. I just think David Gustafsson, and 3 years ago, we were like, there is potential with this boy, and injuries and COVID and AHL stints and all these things. We're kind of like, okay, we'll get what we get with him. He's a fourth liner who's going to be really good. No. I never gave up on him, and I am telling you right now that this player would be an upgrade right now to sort of switch things up within that middle six to give them a little bit extra life, breathe some life into them. And I think that it would be really, really awesome to see him get a stint up there and give him a try. Because I know they'd be more likely to put Morgan Barron up there and all these things, but I don't know. I like to see them try. But listen. I honestly, and this is kind of my mantra, my whole thing, I don't care what happens in the bottom six. I don't care what happens in the bottom 9. If your top line is scoring 5 goals in a game and you're only giving up 2, your bottom 9 can do whatever they please in my books. They can do whatever they please. So this is all just kind of extra conversation pieces and extra thinking and all these things. Because really, I'm not mad about how things are going right now. I was pleased with the Jets tonight. I thought Neil Pionk had some fun looks. Thought Adam Lowry had a couple of really great back checks, kind of saving some people's butts every now and then and all those good things. But generally speaking, I don't know. I'm pretty pleased with how this Jets team is doing and how this game looked tonight. So I'm going to open the floor up to any questions now. I see we have a lot of people who are still active in the chat, so make sure you type away at some questions here to sort of close out the show. Just want to say thank you so much for being here. I have Andrew's in the chat telling me he's proud of me. Thank you so much. What a king. We're having a fun show tonight. It's so nice to see everybody in the chat, having fun and celebrating this Jets win together. That's my favorite part of Game Over, is getting to jump on here and either, complain with you guys or get excited with you guys and kind of have this opportunity for all of us to be together. Kishore saying in the chat, it was noticeable tonight how much better our D was without Stanley. Yeah. I think that's an important thing to sort of understand, is that, Nate Schmidt, Brady and I are both Nate Schmidt apologists, and we understand that dollar amounts and all these kinds of things, and Nick is in the chat, so I know he's going to plug his ears for this one, but, Nate Schmidt's a good hockey player, and I thought he looked excellent. He had a couple of big blocks tonight, and a couple of times where I thought his passes looked good, a couple of nice offensive shots, and all those kinds of things. It was nice to see the Jets just playing a regular 12-6, ending the 11-7 experiment, ending the Logan Stanley experiment, at least for 60 minutes of my time. And I was very pleased with how that looked. And that's probably part of the reason as well. I don't know what's going on with Logan Stanley, but I hope it was all about trade showcases, whatever, because if you're looking at on-ice outputs, when one is in the press box or one is on the ice, salary cap doesn't matter. None of that matters. Strictly on ice, the way things are looking, Nate Schmidt is a better hockey player and is going to help your team win more games than Logan Stanley will. And I don't think that anyone thinks differently. I think I might be preaching to the choir here, but if that's ever in question, that's when I fear. That would be when I fear, for sure. But that kind of wraps up the general gist of what I wanted to talk about tonight. I think kind of the earlier stuff that I talked about, especially in period 1 about LA and the things that they did right to manage this Jets team, listen, I don't think they stopped doing those things. I don't think they stopped pushing the Jets to the perimeter when they were coming in with a controlled break in on the zone. They certainly continue to do a good job of that. You want to watch all 5 of the goals. The Ehlers goals were rush chances. The Scheifele goal, I guess it was, with the Morrissey shot and the scramble in front of the net, that was an LA Kings error, right? They are structurally a very, very good hockey team. So I'm still afraid of the LA Kings. I would be more afraid of the LA Kings if a certain someone was playing like an $8.5 million hockey player, because that would make them even scarier, especially down the middle, managing, defensively and also kind of in transition. We know how hard Pierre-Luc Dubois can carry the puck up the ice and all these things. At least a good hockey team. The Winnipeg Jets are playing on a back-to-back. They lost a stinker last night, just a really disappointing one. They're missing their best player. They're on a road trip. Finishing off 3-1 with a win against who I consider, I think I've already said this, but I'll say it again, the best team in the West. I'm feeling pretty happy about this. So I'm going to end the show here. It is way past my bedtime. Just want to say thank you so much to everyone for being here. Everyone knows how much I hate these solo shows. They're not easy. So shout out to all of my other Game Over hosts, to Brady, and to people in all of the other 6 markets who do these all the time. How? These are so hard. These are so difficult. I was birthed to talk someone's ear off. Not my own. I was birthed to talk to someone else. Like, this is not familiar to me. This is not my cup of tea. So thank you so much for everyone for humoring me. Thanks for being here to celebrate this big Winnipeg Jets win with me. On a personal note, Kishore says, bring on the Avs. The Avs game is on Saturday. I will not be here on Game Over on Saturday because I'm going to the game. This is the first time I'm ever going to a hockey game because of a work-affiliated reason. I'm going because I've been, the company I work for has been working with the Jets. The South Asian Heritage Night is something that, we've been really connected with and things like that. So big milestone and kind of the personal journey here of kind of how the last few years have shaped the way my hockey journey looks. So I've been working with a lot of people, and I'm really, really excited to see how this South Asian Heritage Night kind of shapes up on Saturday. Brady will be back here doing the Game Over show with you. As always, it's always one of the two of us. You're always lucky enough to be graced with one of our presences. So he will be here on Saturday. We have a bunch more games lined up for you ahead of the Christmas little break and stint that we have here, and then a bunch of fun guests and all kinds of things coming up in the new year. So thank you so much, everyone, for joining me tonight. Make sure you follow me on Twitter at Lyss Houde so you catch all my insane live tweets throughout the game. Make sure you follow my co-host Brady at NHL Chunky, and you follow at SDPN Sports to make sure you never miss anything that's going on with any of the Game Over shows or anything else over here at SDPN. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining me tonight. This was a ton of fun, and we'll see you next time.